some players that do have that loss record of 3 that could advance based on drops in the tournament.
Yeah, No Name not optimistic about his chances with the rip me there, but we are getting off to a start. No sword in Uncle's hand means we're going to get one of those non-sword random weapons.
I'm hoping for a bomb start. I think that really stretches the runners and shows some good technique strategy. So I'm hoping for that. I know that they're probably not, but we'll see.
I haven't seen bombs in a while. That would be a nice start. You get to see whether the players have practiced bomb strats.
Well, at the very least, the runners are getting a big 20 in Link's house to start their savings fund if they do need to buy bombs in Kakariko if they don't turn up any here. But we'll see what the uncle has. And for those of you joining us for the first time, Link to the Past Randomizer places runners in a situation where they're playing a Link to the Past, but all the items are randomized around Hyrule and in the dungeons, but in a way that every seed, every situation can be completed. So we're about to see what the uncle has here.
So picking up the hammer there on Uncle, one of the 2 items that the Uncle can give that is 100% required in a seed unlocks a lot of item locations and is also a pretty decent starting weapon. Obviously infinite ammo and doing tempered sword damage there. Pretty nice for the runners.
Absolutely, and I know that the hammer does tempered sword damage, so that will be very handy when they meet some later enemies. And it looks like both runners at this point are actually going to try to farm for bombs on their way into the escape, because sometimes it can be a bit inconvenient to have to go back into the back of escape without those bombs, earlier on.
That's a good point. And No Name there, picking up a bomb off the green guard. Different enemies have different prize pools, which are all randomized race to race. So you never know what you're going to get or which enemies you're going to need to farm. Finding that one bomb there guarantees him that he'll at least be able to do the back 3 chests in the escape sequence, which is what's key for most runners. Any more than 3 just makes Kakariko a little bit easier.
Absolutely. To not have to route in the purchase of bombs in Kakariko definitely makes it a much smoother first check, that Sphere 1 check, or Sphere 0 check, I'm sorry, for the runners.
So we saw another bomb there off Bakar's side. Same enemies, same prize pool. Even though it's randomized across the same seed for both players.
Looks like we're getting the flippers here early on, which could mean that we're going to be routing in a bunch of those water locations early on. And of course, it takes out of the equation any fake flippering that the runners might want to do.
Yeah, that's always a disappointing item to find early, I think, for a lot of runners, because everyone likes showing off their fake flipper strats. It's one of the easier sequence breaks to do, and if you decide to do it and it leads to some key progression, that could be one of the big early gambles that ends up paying off for you. But with flippers in the game, it kind of eliminates that possibility.
And not that I've seen a lot of it in this tournament, but it does take out one possible scenario where you can do the Houlihan room as well. So I haven't seen it much in this tournament, so I don't think it's going to be a factor today.
That's a good point. There's a couple different ways to get in the Houlihan room. One requires bombs in the power glove. One requires not having the flippers. So neither of those 2 are available. I'm not sure. I don't know all the other ones, but there's a couple. But that's a little unfortunate. Houlihan would be a little bit more appealing if you're trying to get some Zora money before you do the Zora area, now that you have flippers.
Absolutely, and that's probably what the runners are going to start looking for, is some of that Zora money, so they can route all those water checks in together rather than having to do them piecemeal.
So with one key here, we know that the sewer chest is going to be either the map or the item. We haven't seen the map yet, so I think there's 4 items left here in escape. After that, I really do like to see what runners do. It really gives us a sense of what their play style is. Whether they check lumberjack or not kind of gives you an idea of whether they are looking for accumulating knowledge or if they're just going for what they know they can absolutely do. So it's nice to see those early game indications of play style.
Yes, absolutely. And to see the runners, I've seen a lot of runners actually skip Lumberjack Cave. And when I've asked them about why, they tend to say, well, without boots early on, I'm not really tempted to check it, but I have seen it burn some runners in the past as well.
Yeah, what you never get to ask people is the ones that lose races because of that, whether next time they decide they're going to check it or they're still going to wait for boots.
Well, Bakar and No Name are both picking up a big 50 in that first chest in the sewers, which is good Zor money as they continue to amass that. Bakar will soon be approaching the 3 chests in the back of Escape here.
Yeah, No Name lucking out with a 8 bomb drop. He's going to be set for the entire Kakariko sequence. Not going to have to spend any of his money, but more importantly, not going to have to actually route in purchasing bombs or gambling on bombs being in blind set or the well, both of which can cost you a good 30 seconds.
And the back of Escape only having a heart piece, piece of a heart container, and a map. So nothing super exciting there for either of the runners. But we're going to be soon approaching the very item-dense location of Kakariko Village, where I'm sure they're hoping for that Dark World access, those progression items, etc.
Oh, there's a nice find in Sanctuary. Fire Rod, both excellent weapon for damage, opens up a couple areas, but it's also one of our 2 fire sources.
Didn't quite catch what the map check pulled up for us, so we'll have to wait for No Name to do a map check as well.
So we have a red crystal desert, a regular crystal at Eastern, and a blue-red pendant on Hera. None of those are accessible at the current moment. Well, you can get in the Eastern, but you can't clear it. So we're really gonna have to wait until what we see in the item dense Kakariko, or maybe even South Shore areas before we really get a clear indication of where they're gonna go.
So it doesn't look like anything of value on Aghanim Ledge, which is good for the runners, but Aghanim may still be required as Bakar looks like he went right into the Lost Woods instead of checking that.
Yeah, just a small heart piece, so not gonna go out of their way to get that, but I'm one of those people that's in the camp that knowing that it's something you can skip is very valuable game knowledge, and it doesn't take a lot of time to route in. Bakar not having that game knowledge may be more inclined to do an Aghanim play, or will have to route that in later once he finds the boots at a less optimal time.
So as we mentioned before, Bakar, because of his lack of bombs, is going to be routing in a purchase here, whereas No Name is going to be going right into Kakariko, able to use those bombs and blinds, heading the well, getting more bombs from a tree pole. He's just getting the luck of the bomb drop today.
I think that was the tier 3. We saw the tier 2 initially, which wasn't really anything of value, and then I think he set up the tier 3 there. So just tier 1's missing.
Well, Bakar picks up a red bottle and Chicken Hut, which opens up Sick Kid to him for progression, which will be nice to check routed now because sometimes that doesn't come back into sort of our consciousness until later. But we're about to see what the 5 items in Blind's Hut are.
Well, hookshot and a sword and another bottle. That's great progression. A little bit eager there with the hookshot. Pulls it out to make navigation easier, but still needs bombs for the rest of Kakariko.
Bakar getting powder down in the well, which of course opens up the bat cave for a check for him, and soon No Name will also be picking that up. There's a lot. It's been a really rich Kakariko village for these two.
Yeah, they can do that bad check immediately since they already have the hammer. So there's a couple of your fetch quests done already. We'll get Sick Kid done. We'll get Magic Bat done. As long as if we don't find a shovel or a mushroom, that'll be a pretty easy scene.
Absolutely, and they also, of course, having the powder is a very nice safety, in addition to the cane of Bjorna that they picked up in Blind's Hut. So these runners will have a couple of nice safeties in their back pocket, just in case they need them, but they have really proven themselves, I believe, in this community to be pretty decent runners, so I think that they may not use them as much as we may think.
Yeah, powder is an absolutely wonderful item to have. Not so much in the light world. There aren't too many locations with anti-fairies or bunny beams. But once you get into those dark world dungeons, it essentially gives you infinite health if you're careful.
All right, well, Bakar is going to check that back, check and hopefully finding something of interest, of help and progression for him, while No Name picks up a bloomerang from the Sick Kid, as Bakar had done a little bit earlier.
So what was he trying to do there? It looked like he was trying to sell his bee, but the bee just got away?
Could have been.
Wow, mirror on the bat. That's both, and that is an excellent item to find this early in the game. Going to make routing much easier.
Yeah, having that mirror, and not having to save and quit every time you're in the dark world, really does save quite a bit of time, and it also allows you to route in a lot of that south Kakariko village and by the race game as well, a little bit easier in the dark world. So that's a very welcome find, I'm sure, by these runners.
So with both the hookshot and the mirror, they now have, assuming that they're willing to sequence break up to Death Mountain, full access to the entire light world side of the mountain. And a glove there in the racing game is 2 out of their 3 dark world access locations. So they have a lot of options at this point. It doesn't really make sense they don't even have to dive into any of those 3 light world dungeons.
One danger when you find a lot of these items that can get you progression is that you have to make a lot of decisions early on. So, I mean, for some people to find this amount of progression early on, or at least these many items early on to get you different options, can sometimes be a little bit, could be a little bit of a interesting situation, but we'll see how these two route, and we'll probably see some route divergence before too long.
That's a good point. You can make it the decision now. Let's say we go directly into Eastern. That's an in-logic location, and we find the Moon Pearl that gives us early Dark World access, but to only certain locations. If you sequence break up to Death Mountain and you find the cane and the ice rod, those are items that you don't necessarily want super early in the game. If you're still looking for the Moon Pearl. So you have a lot of options, and you can route things more efficiently, but the burden is on you to keep track of things at that point.
Well, both runners are continuing sort of that standard routing, taking care of South Shore and then likely Mini Moldorm Cave next. Finding 2 items here, one in the dam and one underneath the drained water, just a heart container. Looks like Bakar is going to pick that up, though. It's a nice find to get those early heart containers.
Yeah, with only 4 hearts, definitely worth picking up at least a full heart. So I think after Mini Moldorm Cave, your choices are really, you can go all the way out of your way to get Ice Rod Cave if you want to. It's kind of a one-off without boots, pretty time-consuming. You can jump into the Zora area. You can check Hobo and the Ledge and the waterfall items. But you don't have enough money to Zora. Where do you think they're gonna go?
Having early boots might indicate to them that they should check some of those water locations, but we do find silvers here in Mini Moldorm Cave, which is going to be helpful once we find that bow. But just to complete my thought, I would say early boots might indicate to the runners some of these water locations might need to be checked, even if we hold off on Zora until later.
Well, it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a split. Or I think No Name didn't mean to fall down there. Unfortunately, there's easy ways to get out. I was gonna say Bakar gonna do Hobo and then maybe head back down, but No Name, I guess, opting out of water altogether.
And No Name might be, finds the ice rod. That is really helpful. So we have two very helpful items if we need to get into T-Rock for Bakar, but it looks like No Name is going to go ahead and take care of Sahasrarla's hut with its 3 items, and then maybe dip into Eastern after.
So, No Name does show us that the stun prize is 20 rupee. So, looks like he's in the mood to do some rupee farming on his way. Makes a lot of sense. It looked like he was trying to do the water areas. Maybe go to Ice Rod Cave. Accidentally fell. Decided rather than recover, just head on to do Eastern. So farming those rupees will unlock. Will give him Zora money when he decides to backtrack there.
So we find in the back here with Ether, Piece of Heart, and Big 20, wondering if he's going to go ahead and he's going to skip right past Sahasrarla, which actually can give us a little bit of intel in the green pendant. Not super critical, but sometimes a nice check to make.
Ice Rod Cave, big waste of time. Out of the way location for nothing, so that's unfortunate. If No Name never heads back there, that will definitely be in his benefit.
Looks like No Name is about to perhaps do a sequence break here up to Death Mountain, which not a bad idea with that hook shot. You can clear quite a bit of terrain and get and perhaps even dip into your pendant Terra of Hair as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking a little bit about different divergence options. Bakar very much so far staying within the logic, looking at locations that he has the abilities to get to. We're going to see the ledge item up here, just a 20 rupee, which he could get. Doesn't have the money for the Zora, so he's going to have to come back there later. No Name, on the other hand, doing the sequence break and just going for pure item density.
Well, No Name sequence break paying off with a Master Sword. However, Master Sword is one of the someone called him the Horseman of Zora of Aghanim, rather, thinking of the Zora check, the Horseman of Aghanim. So it could perhaps lead to an Aghanim seed.
Well, No Name's going to have to keep in mind that the Master Sword there, being a sequence break, would not be his Aghanim access. He's still going to need a sword at a different location, as well as the lamp or the cape, in order to get logical access there. So once you start sequence breaking things, it really does give you that extra burden of keeping track of things. I'm surprised, though, that he just went up there for the save and continue point and not actually checking Eastern items.
Although now that I look at the items again, the runners do have Dark World access minus Moon Pearl, so they won't need to do Aghanim. As far as I know, and with that hammer, they have access to all of the Dark World.
Well, the Moon Pearl could be on the pyramid itself, so they would still have to do it for that. But that would be the only case.
That's true. I guess I'm just wishful thinking for the runner's sake.
Yeah, I'm sure many a runner would absolutely love it if you could could enter the Dark World at 4 or 5 and walk up there, but they put those hammer pegs there for a reason, unfortunately, and it definitely blocks your Dark World access.
Well, it looks like No Name is going to take care of that one-off location of the Ice Rod Cave. We also have Agina's Cave as a possible check for the runners. And again, another pretty far off one-off location, but sometimes could hold quite a bit of value for the runners.
Well, if we don't find the moon pearl in these early non-lamp locked sections of Eastern, then Gina's Cave is definitely our next step for logical progression. That and Zora is all that remains.
Of course, No Name has quite a few more rupees to make that Zora check, so it may be. And Bakar may have not realized yet that the stun prize is 20 rupees, but the sooner he gets that knowledge, the easier it might be to start farming those for that progression, if that's the case.
I don't know if Bakar even wants the rupees. He just walked right past a big 20 that's just sitting out there on the floor.
Well, of the 3 items in Eastern, so far Bakar has not really found anything much of value to him here. He will have to come back in if he doesn't find the bow in here, which, a very slim chance that he will.
So did Bakar pick up the big key?
He did, and the map was in the big chest.
Oh, okay, all right. So, so he's done everything he can do in this dungeon logically at this point. He's now sequence breaking the dark rooms. So that leaves Zora and Agena. This really has to be the pearl. All right, so we would either need the pearl or we need one location to be the lamp and the other location to be a sword or the cape in order to give us logical Agata access.
It looks like No Name did indeed farm rupees for Zora, so we're about to see if Zora is in fact the play here for these runners for some progression, so we'll see what happens.
And there we go. Pearl as promised. And No Name knew that there was a 50% chance that it was either the pearl or a 100% chance it was something. So that was definitely a good play. And we're seeing a Gina from Bakar, so we'll have all the knowledge here.
Fortunately for Bakar, he is going in a direction that will not be helpful to his access into the Dark World. So we're hoping sooner rather than later he makes the move towards Zora, but he also needs that money as well, so we'll see how he chooses to farm.
Well, this actually is a decent position for Bakar, because if he comes out of Agena's cave here, he's either gonna, he's not gonna have the Moon Pearl, and he's right at one of the best farming locations in Desert with 50 rupees. So if you're gonna farm, he's got six trips to do. It's not so bad.
Does look like No Name is going to go ahead and go into the Dark World from the north of Kakariko Village, and then we'll see where he routes. He could go. He could potentially finish Skullwoods if it is a crystal or pendant, either situation. Which it looks like it is a pendant, as I missed the other ones.
I missed those two. Definitely gotta wait for the tracker on that one. But Bakar going ahead with the rupee farming, knows where he needs to go. You just gotta be really careful to avoid talking to that thief there, because he has a lot of dialogue text. Ooh, so Swamp, Green Pendant, Skullwoods, Blue Pendant. What do you think of that?
Well, so Swamp being a pendant, I always feel like the green pendant is, if you're running low on ideas, it's always a good move to make. Plus, you get the additional Sahasral item. And Skullwoods is a fairly quick check if it's a pendant, so if I were the runners, as is No Name doing right now, I would check that out.
Yeah, Swamp is already the most item-dense location and the most item-dense dungeon with 6. The pendant just gives it 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if our runners follow the trends and still try to avoid it like the plague.
We did find the flute in Skullwoods from No Name, so that does put Death Mountain back into logic for him. So we'll see if he ends up activating that. He does have the lamps. He does have the mirror, rather, so he can quickly go into Kakariko, activate it, and then act from there.
Well, of course, Skullwoods has value. It's Skullwoods. It always has value.
Ooh, Bakar is 1 rupee away from his 500. He's going to go ahead and just travel toward that location, hoping to pick up a rupee on his way.
Yeah, even if you have to kill a couple Zoras, you'll get your, you'll get at least a green rupee off them. So let's see here. Well, No Name is in a great position. He can do a full clear of Thieves Town. He has the hammer, so he can get every item. He did have the ability to clear Skullwoods if he wanted to, with both the fire rod and the sword. Did he get 2 items in Skullwoods or just the flute?
I saw the flute. I didn't see him pick up another item, but I'm assuming if he dipped out with the potential to get all of the items, unless it was on Mothula and he had to really put that time investment in, I'm assuming he probably got his 2 items and dipped out.
Even if he just got 1, finding the flute is pretty good value, good enough to take a gamble, come back to Skullwoods later. It's a really easy dungeon to get to.
Well, Picard's going to find out that the Moon Pearl has been on Sora all along, and No Name is activating his flute. We'll see if he goes back into the Dark World, which it looks like he is. It looked like he was farming rupees earlier. He may not have had enough for the chess game, so that may be what he was doing.
Yeah, he's definitely short for both the chess game and the digging game. So hopefully he picks up a nice 300 here in Thieves Town as one of his items. That'll be very convenient. Bakar giving us the alternate typical Dark World entry here in the south. Give us the Hype Cave check in Southern Dark World. With a mirror, this is a really efficient route. You can do the K45 spot without leaving it for later. Without the mitts, you're not going to be able to head directly up into Kakariko unless he picks that up on the way. That would be the dream route.
When Bakar is going into Hype Cave, or the cave formerly known as Hype Cave, so we're going to see if it lives back to its former glory. Ooh, No Name just found the bow, so certainly Thieves Town has been pretty hyped for him.
Well, money in a fetch quest. The money's not too bad. He's definitely going to need that, but I think a mushroom is kind of anti-hype.
Yeah, and it looks like Bakar might be making a walk toward the pyramid and then perhaps Pod. And Pod is a crystal, it's not completable this time without that bow.
Yeah, this could be Pyramid Catfish, Pyramid Pod, and also with the hook shot, this could be Pyramid Northern Dark World on the way over to Village of Outcasts. So there's really he's got a lot of options. I mean, like you said earlier, when the players get that much progression early on, you really don't know where they're going to go until they actually start heading in a specific path.
Well, Picard's about to show us what is on the pyramid, and it is just a big 20. I'm sure he's hoping he had that a little bit earlier to pad out his Zora account, but he's going to go ahead and continue eastward. So we'll see, as you said, if he's going to go take care of some of these. Looks like he is going to take care of some of these northern checks, perhaps routing in Catfish, or even perhaps hookshotting across to go to Western Dark World.
I do kind of like this way to route the Northern Dark World. He's also able to turn his mushrooms, so that's convenient. You get mushroom catfish out of the way locations that your opponent is not super likely to route in as a high priority, so it's kind of a gamble there. That if that has progression, you get a nice advantage. In addition to the peace of mind of just clearing it off your tracker. But this northern route also gives you Graveyard Ledge and a Bunker Cave check on your way into Skullwoods, rather than having to worry about those on your way out.
Yeah, this could end up being a really clean routing decision for Bakar, just to knock out these locations in one fell swoop. And obviously, while it's not granting him access to a crystal or something in that direction. It is giving him a lot of intel and a lot of checks off his list that he won't have to go back to later if there is an item that is outstanding and the runners do have to run around for.
Yeah, this is a tough decision you always face as a runner. You're faced with, do I just go to dungeons and complete crystals, or do I route in some overworld checks? Uh, it's easy to look at Catfish and say there's no better time for me to route this in. But the flip side of that is, if you never route it in, then that's your ultimate time saving. So you're always fighting that. Do I risk having to spend more time on this later, or can I do it never?
We do have No Name going into his blind fight. Blind is a scripted fight, and it looks like he's doing a very nice job with it so far. I don't have the script down far enough to know if he's on or off, but he's doing a nice job nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that was maybe a second off of perfect. Blind never. When he dives on the left side, and you want him to die a little bit more to the right at the end there, but that was, like I said, almost a perfect fight. Definitely better than I can do. So, props to No Name there.
So getting his first crystal, picking up the bow, very exciting for No Name in that dungeon. A lot of accomplishment there, and it looks like he's going to continue clearing out the village of the outcasts, and then perhaps head south and do some of his checks with his mirror in hand.
I think normally you might feel a little bit behind picking up your first crystal a half hour in, but No Name, knowing that he has the bow, knowing where the rods were, the master sword, everything that he's done in logic, he knows that he could not have completed Eastern if he went in there. He knows that he could not have completed Pod if he went in there, so he probably feels very happy with what he's got so far.
Interesting to note, looking at No Name's bio, he was actually hoping that Lamp was not going to be found very early because he's very darkroom proficient, and he's getting his wish right now because the Lamp is still outstanding. So we'll see where these runners do find the Lamp, but the longer that these runners have to be forced sort of to think about doing the darkrooms, it looks like it's going to be toward his advantage, at least in his own words.
Well, we did see him do the one sequence break up to Death Mountain just to get the save point at least. That already netted him his Master Sword. And now, of course, having the flute is back in sequence, but he finds the lamp. Oh, poor guy. Normally, I love when people find the lamp because most people are not comfortable with dark rooms.
Yeah, and some of the dark rooms are very, very complex and require a lot of practicing, and so No Name is probably crossing his fingers that Bakar is gonna not find that lamp for quite some time, but eventually he will run across the dig spot, so he will absolutely find that lamp.
So, one thing about the dark rooms is they both found the fire rod early, very early. So that makes the Palace of Darkness dark rooms a lot easier. The maze is fairly easy to do once you learn it. The only really difficult room in that dungeon is the turtle room, which you can light with the fire rod. Same thing can be said with Eastern. First one is just a square you walk around. The second one with the Igors, you can light with the torches. So pretty straightforward. It doesn't really get hard until Misery Mire, and that's a point where having the lamp or not having the lamp really can affect a lot of runners that are even proficient with the earlier dark rooms.
Well, Bakar finding the bug net on the graveyard ledge in the Light World, saying no thank you, which that's pretty unfortunate. I like the net, and you get some nice swag strats out of it, and you can also potentially pick up fairies, but he is not going to take the time to pick that up today.
That is an interesting choice. Having 2 bottles and still only green mail doesn't really give them a lot of safeties. We haven't seen a lot of money in this seed, so I wouldn't be expecting the runners to be repeatedly stocking up on potions. I think having a fairy would be a very nice free safety item. I wouldn't go ahead and clear left side swamp for the bug net, but if it was just sitting there, I'd pick it up.
Yeah, and it's not much of a time loss to grab it where it was for Bakar either, but he may feel behind at this point, finding that Moon Pearl as one of his last checks, or rather his last check in the light world at the time, so he may just be trying to save any seconds he can.
That's possible, and having the powder does let you get enough fairies as you go that if you're pretty competent, you don't really need to have them in the bottle. So that could also play into his thinking.
So it looks like we have No Name going into pod, which will be very quick. Well, not a quick clear per se, but it will be quick to clear that and then go right over to Eastern. So this is a really nice routing decision on his end.
And not having dipped into, so he still has the Sasha items to check, I believe. So he can do a quick mirror check here for those, and not having gone into Eastern, or did he go into Eastern? Did they both go into Eastern, or is it just Bakar?
I think Bakar was the only one to go into Eastern so far, but I could be wrong on that.
And so I guess No Name did do, yeah, he did Sash. That's right, because he got stuck in the water area, and then he did Sash and saved and quit from Sasha's hut. So not having gone to Eastern, this is really optimal for him. Full clearing 2 crystal dungeons with neither a double dip.
And it looks like he is opting to do Eastern first before he does Palace of Darkness. He may hope for some items to help him out, clear pod out a little more quickly, maybe a sword upgrade, etc. But we do have Bakar on the right side, continuing on in Thieves Town. Remind me again, where did No Name find that sword upgrade?
That sword upgrade was on the Old Man in Death Mountain, which is still a sequence break for Bakar not having the lamp yet. That's the only item that we've seen on Death Martin. Not Death. Why did I say Death Martin? I don't know where that came from. Death Mountain. No Name. He sequence broke the Old Man for the save point. Definitely comes in handy with the flute, but didn't check anything else on the mountain. Probably waiting to come back later on when he has mitts and can route the entire mountain in one go.
And that would be my thought for him. I enjoyed the name Death Martin. I think we should rename the old man to Death Martin, who lives on Death Mountain.
Maybe I was thinking like Dean Martin or something. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I don't even know anybody who's named Martin, let alone one that's evil.
Maybe Death Martin is just misunderstood.
You're talking about the picking Eastern versus Pod. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's Pod is a more difficult dungeon than Eastern. There's really you can find something in Eastern that will make Pod easier. You're less likely to find something in Pod that makes Eastern much easier. So you have to do both of them anyway. Doing Eastern first is a little better. You do have to mirror one additional time, but who cares?
Yeah, it's similar logic to Misery Mire Desert Palace. If there were some items outstanding that could make my life a little easier in Misery Mire, I'd probably opt to do to Dark Desert Palace first, rather, and then go into Misery Mire. So I absolutely agree with No Name's play here.
Yeah, if one extra mirror is going to cost you the race, then, so be it.
Although there have been a couple of races recently that could very well have cost one of the runners the race. We had a race, I believe it was last night, that was seconds, like 4 seconds apart. So, that could be something that sticks out in your mind later if that were to happen.
I don't know. We've had many ties this tournament. I don't know if we've had any this week. I think there were 2 last week. Probably more than half a dozen so far across the entire tournament. So yeah, a couple seconds can absolutely make a difference.
Bakar taking down Blind in his fight, not on script, but certainly a pretty clean fight. Gets his first crystal of the match, while No Name is continuing up the Eastern Palace stairs here to take care of a quick boss battle with the Armos Knights with those silver arrows.
Yeah, No Name was definitely having a little trouble with those Igors there. I'm not sure he would have really wanted to be without the lamp in that particular room. I'm just gonna say the lamp might have saved him a death there. So yay lamp.
I'm a big fan of the lamp, so I'm glad that he has it, and I'm hoping Bakar soon as well will get that lamp himself.
Maybe he was just sarcastic when he was saying he doesn't want the lamp. Who doesn't want the lamp?
Well, maybe he wanted the cape, which is what he just got off of the Armos in a very, very quick battle with those silver arrows. So that will pick him up his second crystal of the match as Bakar continues his checks in the village of outcasts.
Yeah, cape's a nice item to have. Doesn't open up anything other than Bumper Cave. And we did. I guess Bakar went past it, but I didn't see what the item was. Did you catch what was up there?
I don't know that it was anything of value. I didn't catch the exact item, but I think I remember saying to myself, nothing super important sitting up there. I want to say maybe it was rupees or a heart piece.
At least the cape lets you do spins, while the can of burn it doesn't. So there's. If I had to pick either safety item, I'd probably would opt for the cape.
I agree, and if the runners can activate, there's a little bit of a glitch where if you're near a wall or next to a wall rather, and you activate the cape and say the coffee break room, it doesn't actually deplete your magic as long as you are, I believe it's holding one of the control inputs.
That is a good point. Yeah, you have to be grabbed onto one of the walls and pulling on a wall. I've seen people try to do it with the can of Burna. I guess they watched someone do it with the cape and then they tried it with Burna and it doesn't work. It's always fun to see that. But yeah, I've never had the opportunity to actually try that firsthand.
Certainly not a difficult thing to try, but that's interesting that they were trying to use some sort of transitive property there to get that to work. We do have No Name working his way through Pod, and Bakar did get his lamp, so he will be happy to find that and getting his big 20 off of Stumpy.
I got a friend of mine who has a PhD in math. I'll have to ask him if there's a transitive property of invincibility items.
I smell a dissertation coming up here.
Alright, so Picard now that he has the lamp, making his first Death Mountain check. He's been playing the seed really straight. I mean, with the exception of the Dark Room in Eastern, everything he's done so far has been completely within logic. And that first Eastern Dark Room, I mean, I don't think many people really even consider that a sequence break. It's such a standard practice.
Yeah, I would say I've seen so many people do that quote-unquote sequence break that I would agree with you. And he's about to pick up his sword upgrade as No Name not really finding much of anything in Pod quite yet. Just some rupees and bomb upgrades. But again, it is completely clearable and right there to complete for his third crystal of the match. So, I'm sure that is really what's on his mind.
Yeah, it's rare that you can really save a lot of time in Pod. If you go right side and you find a small key and the big key over there, then you can go straight to Helmasaur. But that's really as close as to go mode that this dungeon typically gets. Usually you're checking all or most, if not all, of the chests. At this point in the game, when you're still looking for items, you definitely don't want to skip anything.
Bakar finding the book in Spectacle Rock Cave, I don't think that we saw No Name check that, and if he did, he decided he didn't want it, but I doubt that he would walk by the book with the tablets opening up and, earlier Desert Palace access, so that'll be a good find, perhaps a key find for Bakar here.
Absolutely. No Name didn't even, he didn't proceed past the old man, so he has no knowledge of any Death Mountain items. That book is the only Desert Palace access that we have at the moment until we pick up the myths. Uh, it, m- we might not see any use from it. Maybe we'll see. Bakar. Let's say he's been playing things really straight, so he might want to give us a pedestal check, earlier than we might otherwise see it. Uh, he'll probably check the ether tablet up here. That makes a lot of sense. But um, without desert, without boots, we might not even see him go to the desert. There's other options for him.
Guard does look like he's going to check that tablet and maybe even go into Tower of Air. He may also check Eastern Death Mountain while he's up here, despite not having those myths, just because of the pure item density that is up here. And as you've been saying, he is playing this pretty straight, so this may be where he thinks the logic is pushing him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There's 8 items that he has access to on East Death Mountain, as well as 2 items in Tower of Hera. So, if just this is the place to be. I was surprised when No Name didn't check up here initially, despite it being a sequence break. The item density is just so good. No Name did pick up his blue mail here in the Dark Maze of Pod, the first mail upgrade we've seen.
That would be very helpful, as you especially face a lot of those much more difficult enemies. And I say difficult because these runners probably don't have difficulty with them per se, but they can take quite a bit of give quite a bit of damage, and so that blue mail will be a welcome find. And Bakar just finding the big key in the map here in Tower of Hera so far. He's going to go up and check what is in these upper rooms. I'm sure he's hoping that basement is not required.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think finding the big key in the basement is usually what you want to see, because you know that your opponent is going to be forced there. Anytime you have to make a gamble, that's a risky place to gamble. Finding the compass, not looking good. So the single arrow, that's one item.
So it looks like that second item is either going to be on Moldorm or it's going to be in the basement. I know that he's. I think it has to be in the basement. I think Moldorm is going to have a small key. So unfortunately, it looks like basement is where Bakar is going to have to go if he wants that second item.
Maybe. The small key can be locked in the basement itself, so Moldorm could still have the item. So we got a nice double boss fight here. Helmasaur and Moldorm. Both using the hammer to kill.
So it looks like Bakar takes down Moldorm very, very quickly, and No Name is in the middle of his 17 hammer hits to get that mask off. Bakar is finding that small key and a red pendant, so I have a feeling he'll likely go down into the basement, although he may opt not to if he feels behind and feels like there really is nothing of value down there, but I would go down in that basement.
It's definitely one of the more difficult gambles, I think. He's going back in there. It's a long, out of the way location to get back to, but it's also a time-consuming item to check. It's what, like I said, it's one of the more difficult choices to make.
Well, now that No Name has taken out Eastern and Pod, looks like he is going to do some of those Death Mountain checks because the opportunities were limited for him at this point, unless he wanted to dip into a couple of pendant dungeons. So he's opted to do this instead, which I agree with at this point.
Absolutely. He can't get to Misery Mire or Ice Palace without the myths. Otherwise, that could potentially be good options. But I think his best bets are, look up here on. He can't get in the desert without the book or the mirror. So his only choice really was Swamp Palace. or the last item in Skullwoods.
Bakar only picking up a piece of heart in the basement, so unfortunately the basement not really paying off unless you wanted some more pieces of heart. He's going to go ahead and check Eastern Death Mountain, although it looks like he's taking a quick... he's going to go ahead and check that eastern side of Death Mountain.
Picard does get the peace of mind, and that's, that is worth something.
Floating island holding that shovel, so if it is indeed required, we may be seeing the runners come back to get that later, but it's not an item that would really cause me any decision to go get it. So, but it may be that there's a fetch quest that is hiding an item of progression.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you're in go mode, you obviously skip the shovel. But if you're clearing Hookshot Cave and you're still looking for items, you pick it up because it could be what you need. And it's not hard to pick up. It's a quick item. But that's our last fetch quest item for the game. We've seen bottles, powder, mushroom, and shovels. We've seen everything.
And none of them paying off yet, unless that shovel pays off. So we'll see if they end up picking it up at the end. But again, it's a time investment, small as it is, that still could be something the runners don't want to put in.
So 300 rupees in Paradox Cave so far. Nice to have. It gives them a little extra cushion money. Not awful. Get a full heart refill right before save and quit. But a tempered sword, there's some value.
So now with his bow and his hammer, he might be opting. Bakar may be opting to go ahead and take care of Pod in Eastern. It looks like he is going to go ahead and enter the Dark World here from the Hammer Peg spot just below his house. So I would assume that's the move that he's making, which will put him closer in line with No Name at this point.
This isn't the way to Pod, so I'm not sure where he's going. I mean, this is where you go if you want to do Swamp or check the Bombos tablet.
I thought maybe he was just going to enter there and go north to Pod, but I'm sure that's probably actually more of a time sink than going from the Flute 5.
Yeah, Flute 5 is definitely faster. I love No Name trying the reverse bomb jump there. Difficult to do that. Unfortunately, had already hit the tile, so it only fell one floor instead of two. This swamp play, this is really interesting. Green Pendant Swamp. There are 7 items, including the pendant, that he's going to be able to get from this dungeon. But he also has 2 crystal dungeons, Pod and Eastern, that he can full clear, and Desert, which he may possibly be able to full clear with the book. So 2.5 crystal dungeons. It's odd to see this swamp play.
Well, I know from experience in playing him, he definitely likes to make gambles, so this may be something that he's hoping to gamble and hoping that it'll pay off. So that may be exactly why he's doing this. He may be feeling behind and thinking that there's no way that my opponent's gonna take this risk, so I'm gonna try and see if it pays off.
Yeah, if this has the mitts or the cane, then those are items that No Name might not pick up. Unfortunately, the mitts are blocking most of No Name's progression, so he's gonna probably head to Swamp fairly soon. I mean, he might check Desert, he might do Spike Cave, but it's not going to be too long before he also heads to Swamp. That makes a little bit more sense, having already completed Pod and Eastern. For Picard, it's a little bit more of a gamble, but it's probably not going to pay off too much for him, given that No Name's going to be forced there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, and fortunately for Bakar, he's picking up a little bit of time here with No Name falling a couple times to Moldorm, which is a very unforgiving loss. So that goes in his favor. But this is indeed a huge, huge risk he's taking with Swamp Palace.
I think the best thing for Bakar will be if he finds the cane in here and No Name finds the mitts somewhere prior to going into Swamp, because that will make Swamp a last resort play for No Name. He'll probably search Misery Mire for the cane. He'll full clear Ice Palace, but there aren't too many spots he can check before being mitts locked. But that would be optimal for Bakar.
He is opting to forego that left side, so he is going to pick up the chest in the back here. Don't know that he may choose to complete the boss fight as well, so we'll see. He does have the Tempered Sword, making it a little bit more expeditious, but we'll see what he's going to do.
All right, so what's available to? I mean, we know, excluding Pod and Eastern, which we've full cleared. We know that there's no progression there other than a mail upgrade. What is available to both players at this point, being both Kane and Mitslocked? It's just, I can think of Spike Cave. They've done collectively. We've seen all the overworld except for one Skullwoods item. That Spike Cave. Any other spots that we haven't seen?
Well, Desert's now open to them as well, unless it's boots locked, in which in that case it's not as open as we hope. But not a whole lot left here, so it does look like Bakar is going to take on Argus, picking up that green pendant and bringing Sahasrara into the equation. Which, if that is a play that really pays out for him, it's going to be real. It's going to be huge.
That's a good point. There would be at least one item in Desert they could get, and the Desert Ledge item. So there's a couple spots left. But we are pretty closely approaching Mitslock.
Well, this was the play. There it was. There were his mitts. I wonder how long it will take. I think, as you said, Tiro, that it's eventually No Name's going to go this way. Just how long it takes is really the question.
So definitely paying off for Bakar makes it a little bit less of a gamble, given that we know it's going to be required pretty soon. I think more of a gamble would be checking the remaining items, which your opponent is less likely to do. But I think Bakar is definitely on the right track now, leaving and heading to areas that he can get to. Bombos, being the Meyer medallion, can't get in there, but there's still a lot in this area he can do.
Yeah, and I would assume it looks like he's checking out the Meyer cave, and I didn't see what the medallion required for Meyer is, but he's going to check that, and then he could opt to go into Desert Palace at this point.
So Checkerboard Cave is our last sword upgrade. Surprisingly large number of people would not have picked that up, but I think it's always worth picking up.
Yeah, I mean, for runners of this caliber, it's not necessarily a necessity per se, but it is something really nice to have, and it does shorten some of the boss fights, and it does shorten the Ganon fight ever so slightly. So, and again, every second counts, and so I don't disagree that Bakar should have picked that up.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of content left. I mean, they have all of Ice Palace to clear. You know, Butter makes Cold Stare quite a bit easier. Uh, you know, it's just gonna make all he has enough content left that it's worth a few seconds. Definitely worth a few seconds.
So it looks like the runners are going to be needing the boots, and so Bakar, realizing that fact, does mirror out of Desert Palace. Well, interestingly enough, we do have Bakar going back into the Dark World here, going in back into the Dark World by Kakariko Village to the Village of Outcasts. I'm surprised he didn't flute over and take care of Eastern Impod, but he might be doing some checks. I'm trying to think what checks. Well, he does have Jeremiah, and he does have the chest, so he may be hoping one of those have progression.
Yeah, we're gonna have to ask him why he's postponing Pod in Eastern because, you know, if they were I'm sorry, if they were pendants, that would be one thing, but being crystals that he has the ability to full clear and could have the progression that he's looking for, I'm really not sure why he's prioritizing the overworld at the moment. Definitely gonna have to remember to ask him about that.
The only thing that's going to buy him a little bit of time is if, well, No Name, we'll see what he finds here in Mothula. We'll see. Well, Picard just got half magic, which is a nice pickup, but depending on how long it takes No Name to tip into Swamp Palace, it could buy Picard time back that he lost earlier. So will be interesting to see what No Name's next move is.
That was a nice Mothfield fight. Only 4 hits with the tempered. Um, Hopefully, No Name will give us our pedestal check now because we have one of the pendants done. If he finds that there's nothing on pedestal, then that may discourage him for at least a little bit from checking Swamp. Although, like I said, he's down to Spike Cave, Swamp, not many locations left.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Could Boots be on the pedestal at this point?
Absolutely.
Of course, he doesn't know that that Desert Palace is Boots locked. So I mean, that may be a reason why he didn't check that pedestal. He may be kind of hoping that they are not required. But you know, with Desert Palace being a crystal, he does find Bombos though. So that gives him 67% of chance to being able to open up these pendant rather these medallion dungeons.
Well, Mired is is Bombo, so that gives him that. We don't know what Turtle Rock is. Chat is letting us know that Ped was checked as an arrow upgrade. We're having a little bit of issues back on the back end here, so thank you for filling us in on that, chat.
Oh, Bakar is reaching the end. It looks like of the majority of his overworld checks at this point. So looks like he's going to finally opt to do the Pod Eastern play, which I think it is time. He of course I'm sure it could have gone up to Dark Death Mountain as well, but I think this is the right play at this point.
Well, this is good for him. The longer, I mean, No Name is doing overworld checks that Bakar has already done. So the more time he spends doing this, the less time he spends getting his mitts is time that Bakar can save on already sunk time.
course, we also have the two left, left side items in the swamp as well, and we also have Quake here on Sahasrahlis. So that is, we now know where all three pendants are, all three medallions are rather. So that's at least some knowledge for us here in the audience in the commentator booth.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely interesting to find out what the Turtle Rock medallion is. We know that that Argus was required for the mitts, but it'd be great if it was also required for the green pendant to pick up Quake to get on the Turtle Rock.
Yeah, if that's the case, then Bakar has a real advantage here because he did make that gamble into Swamp Palace to see if it did hold something of progression and value for him, and not only did it have one thing that helped out, but it had two.
Yeah, no name. He'll pick up the mitts, but he could still do Dark Death Mountain and all of these mitts lock locations before actually turning that pendant in, because it's kind of out of the way to turn in. So if we end up finding that Turtle Rock is Quake, that's even more time for Bakar to save. I'm really glad that Bakar is in pod now, picking up his crystals, getting back on track.
Yeah, I don't think Bakar had very much left to do, other than going into these two dungeons. And of course, after this, he does have quite a bit of option. He can, he has one option really, as Ice Palace, unless he finds the cane somewhere in his travels. But I think, he's not going to find it in either of these two dungeons at the very least.
So unfortunately, guys, we are going to have to drop commentary for a few minutes due to some technical difficulties on the back end. We will be back before too long, hopefully not more than a minute or two. So if we miss anything, we can count on you guys to fill us in. Again, apologize for the inconvenience. Okay, we should be back, and hopefully we didn't miss too much action. Oh, someone killed Ganon. Oh, nice.
Oh, match over. We can go home now.
So we do have No Name in Swamp. Picking up his mitts. That's good for him. And Bakar, still working on Pod. So good for him. So both runners filling out the areas that the others have been into. I guess that was probably a good time for us to take our break. I mean, it is. I will point out, like Chad said, it is a union mandated 5-minute break every 60 minutes of stream time, and we hit our limit.
Glad somebody read our contract.
I'm all about contracts. I love contract law. It's so boring and bland and formal and enforceable.
All right, well, we have Vakar finishing off Helmisar King, and No Name is going ahead and taking care of Swamp. He's going to be quite happy he did this.
Yeah, now the real interesting thing here is we haven't seen where the King of Samara is yet. So Bakar did skip a bunch of locations in Swamp. It's not likely that it's here, but it's possible that it's here. So if No Name does decide to do a full clear and finds it, that would be a big gamble that Bakar decided not to follow through on. I think most likely it's probably in Dark Death Mountain. Knowing, you know what, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say they have to do Dark Death Mountain, get the shovel, and it's at the shovel spot. You want to make it? You want to make a guess?
Yeah, you know, I didn't even think about that shovel coming back into prominence and importance. So I like that. I like that prediction. I was thinking Hookshot Cave myself, so that's right. I might sit with my prediction.
That's pretty close. Shovel spot. I mean, you have to go through Hookshot Cave to get it.
Well, No Name is also skipping that left side just like Bakar did. So I wonder if he'll go back for it or if he'll be satisfied with his pickup here. Well, we do have Bakar picking up his cape and also his crystal here, so that is good news for him.
Well, having completed both of these areas, I'm gonna say he's up to Dark Death Mountain. There's seven items in the dark portion, plus the shovel. So that's 8. And we're gonna look at a Turtle Rock medallion, which he will not be able to enter unless he picks up the cane. But he's gonna at least open it up.
Well, Bakari is going to go ahead and do that Dark World Death Mountain check, which again we both predicted that something that the cane will be here, which I believe will put him into at least puts us in a no mode. If I don't know that we said that Bombos was Mizumire, so it puts us in a no mode and him close to go mode.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if he picks up the mitts and just bails after this. Ooh, I hate missing that hookshot clip. Poor Bakar.
Yeah, it's definitely a pain. I usually opt to switch to the mirror. I know it's takes a little bit of time when you have to switch. You get to do some menuing, but for me, it's more of a sure thing that I'll get that than the hook shot. So
So looks like No Name is still a little bit behind here. Really, really psyched about that pendant. I mean, just does not want to like I got this pendant. Look at me, I am so great. Like just wants us to know how proud he is.
I mean, who wouldn't be proud of the green pendant? That's the best pendant.
Well, look what it did. It teleported him right over to the Prague. Imbued with magical powers indeed.
In my laughter, I didn't check what the medallion was for Turtle Rock.
Did we see Turtle Rock? I didn't look either. Hey, check, guys. What was the Turtle Rock medallion for the people who should have looked at it? We had 1 vote for Mombos. Do we have a second? It's all about formality.
I trust Plagued on this one.
Yeah, you trust him enough to update the tracker? I don't know. Okay, thanks. Ether, Bombos, or Quake.
All right, looks like we have a card checking out this Spike Cave, which is a good move. You're already up here on Death Mountain. You haven't really found what you needed, so but he's hoping for that cane in here. He's going to take one cane out, hoping for the other.
Yeah, this is one of the spots that No Name could have checked before heading into the Swamp Palace. One of the last places you could have gone to, and not the red cane. Wow, I would not have called this play. No Name turning in the green pendant, gonna find that he gets Quake out of it. The chat says we don't need Quake, but I still wouldn't have called him turning it in this quickly.
Yeah, it looks like Bakar is going to go do Skull Woods. At least at the very least, it does seem like it. He does have that shovel now, so he could go ahead and participate in a fetch quest if he liked to, and it might pay off.
Yeah, I think they're really only about maybe 2 minutes apart at this time. No Name has completed Skull Woods, and Bakar has done Dark Death Mountain, and those are pretty much close in time, I think. Neither of these will give the runners the cane. So their choices are do we dip mire in the desert area? Bakar's had a peek in there, but hasn't gone in the mire, or do we full clear Ice Palace? What would you do in this situation?
I don't know. I mean, if I were Bakar, I'd probably take the gamble and hope that the cane was in Meyer. But honestly, knowing that Ice Palace is clearable, especially if you use the bomb jump, because sometimes the logic does require you to have the cane. I would jump into Ice because that's more of a sure thing, and at least it's a necessary sure thing as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably the more common play. A lot of runners, they fight really hard to try to save ice and swamp, for last. But in doing so, they really only save themselves a minute and can end up costing themselves more time checking other places. It's not that big a gamble if you're gambling on a crystal dungeon.
Right. I mean, if you're going out of your way to make that gamble, you have a little bit more of a risk factor. But if you're going there and it has to be done anyway, then I'm a pretty safe player. I would say that's the move I would make. But I could see Bakar going into Misery Mire, hoping that it's a vanilla location and that his opponent wouldn't perhaps think of that.
That I don't know. Mire is also a dungeon that if you find the big key early and you can go mode, that can save you a lot of time, just like ice. So I don't know if one of those is absolutely better than the other. I think being able to full clear ice rather than gamble on Mire is probably the safer bet.
Yeah, and of course we do have that shovel still. Now both players having that shovel for that fetch quest. I would probably go there first because it is a quick flute to 4 and then on over. So I think I would do that first and go over back to ice.
Yeah, definitely. Check the Mire Shed, uh, checkerboard, desert ledge. Uh, it really comes down to. So I was having a debate about this last night. It was interesting. You make the decision that you're going to go to ice. That's your next play. So the decision is really, um, what can I check quickly enough that will potentially let me go mode ice? And in that case, the 4 Mire items are quick enough that if they have what you need, you can go mode ice, and if they don't have what you need, you're not losing a lot of time. So I think it does make sense, and you can make a case for it.
We just saw at least for Bakar, a blind pedestal pull, of course, not having anything what he wanted, but exciting everyone in the audience because everyone loves a good pedestal pull.
Everybody except the runner doing it. So I guess one item still left in Skull Woods, which we missed initially when No Name went here. We're going to see it on the car side.
If memory serves, I think that last item was in the big chest, and I want to say it was a piece of heart.
They are really starting to converge here.
Yeah, once Bakar makes this check, both runners are going to basically be in the same position in terms of what they can do.
Yeah, No Name still has those really fast Mire area locations to check, but finds his Bombos. I forgot where Bombos was. Absolutely required to do that.
So that's what I meant when I said piece of heart. It was just the regional pronunciation for bombos. So I hope y'all picked up on that.
You have to take regional dialects into consideration. We are a very open community here, so we'll accept that reasoning.
Well, Bakar is doing exactly what I thought he might do, and he's going to go ahead and hope and pray that the cane is in here. Of course, we are still looking for the boots as well, so it will be interesting to see if maybe the boots are in here, and then Bakar kind of backs out and checks some of those boot locations and takes care of Desert Palace.
Yes, chat might be able to answer this for us. We did not see either runner even look in the desert, so we don't know if they picked up one item or whether it was boots locked.
Desert was boots locked. I believe Bakar went in a little bit earlier.
Okay, that's good to know. So key was on the torch, and then the compass was in the chest then, the small chest. Wow, all right, nice divergence here. This is so if the red cane is here in Mire, Bakar gets to finish off the dungeon, and go mode ice, potentially go mode ice because the boots could be here. So yeah, I'm gonna take that back. Well, there's one of our items, just triple boom in Mire.
Yeah, this could be a big bust for Bakar, depending on what he finds next. And No Name is not fooling around in ice, and he's just going to go ahead and use Quake to take care of those pen gators.
First Ice Palace item is just a red rupee. Ice Palace is 3 items, to answer chat. Misery Mire is 2. Ice is full clearable with the items that they have, while Misery Mire is not, unless Bakar finds the cane as his one last item. And of course, that one last item could be cane locked if it's on the boss.
Interesting. Bakar is opting to not do the cutscene and the vanilla big key chest in Myra. I think he's probably hoping to avoid that time sink, although he's skipping it again, so I'm wondering if looks like he's going to go over and check the big key chests first.
Alright, he's routing it to save that small key. Even though that or the big chest had to be a small key. Actually, I guess that it doesn't have to be a small key. The small key could be in the vanilla big chest location if this was a dungeon item and a compass. Or in the map, rather.
Well, I think that last chest now that Bakar skipped to come over here to the right side of Meyer is gonna. I think he picked up the. See, I've lost track of what he has. It's either gonna have an item or it's gonna have a dungeon item. So we'll see. Oh, and chat pointing out we still do have those left side swamp items. So be quite interesting if indeed that is where the cane is sitting.
I think that this vanilla. Does this vanilla location have to be a small key? Because he could have used a small key on one of on the door downstairs. I don't know if Vitreous can have a small key.
I feel like go ahead.
I was just saying, sometimes I get messed up on the key logic. There's certain dungeons that I know like Pod, and there's other ones that I just Misery Mire. It's so rare that you're actually looking for a key that you tend not to think about it.
I want to say I have seen Vitreous have a small key before, but again, I could be really wrong on that. But I think Bakar's going to pick up his last chest here that he can.
It's a small key. Looking at the Twitch stream. So the last item is on Vitreous. Yeah, Vitreous can have the small key because you can get to Vitreous. If you go the left route, it doesn't require a small key door, whereas the right route does. So if you waste your key, you can still get to the boss. So he could have it.
Yeah, it looks like Ice Palace is probably the play, if not left side swamp at this point, because Bakar didn't find anything of tremendous value in there. Oh, and of course, we have just found the answer out that yes, Ice Palace was the play for that game.
Well, very useful. Not go mode because we still need the boots for our boots locked at Desert Palace. This is looking really, really close to being a 100% seed. Unfortunately, with only one item left in Misery Mire, it does make sense for No Name to head there next and full clear Mire, but if that isn't the boots, then he's going to make his way up to Turtle Rock. It's always nice to save TR for last, but I think in this case you have to climb the mountain twice, and that's not that big a deal.
Well, No Name dispatching of Cold Stare incredibly quickly with, the technique that we use sword spin and get him in the corner and then take him out from there. So nice job to No Name. That's going to pick him up his third to last crystal, or rather, fourth to last crystal. So he has 3 crystals remaining. So it's been quite a while. I think these runners have been kind of running around trying to find some of these progression items.
Yeah, so it's Vitreous or Turtle Rock for boots, but because Turtle Rock is a crystal, there's no harm in clearing it first. So this is absolutely fine.
I have a feeling that Bakar will probably go back to Mire after this just to finish it out. He has everything he needs to get to Vitreous, so that would be my guess. I don't think he'll go to T-Rock first, but, he could change his mind.
I think that's also a good play. You know that you're essentially done Mire. If you find the boots, then you can immediately do Desert and go mode Turtle Rock. If you don't find it, then you're doing the exact same amount of work you're going to have to do later in order to pick up that crystal. No Name doesn't know that the item has to be on Vitreous and doesn't already have the big key. So for him, Turtle Rock's out of density makes more sense. So they both would be doing what's best based on the knowledge they have, respectively.
Right, and the full clear of T-Rock versus a Go-Mode T-Rock, there's very little time difference in the two, so, I think you're absolutely right. Both of them are doing what's right based on the information that they have at this point.
Absolutely. The only difference between Go Mode Turtle Rock is you can skip Mimic Cave, and you can potentially skip some of the chests on Laser Bridge. That's essentially it. And other than the boots, there's really nothing they even need from a safety standpoint. They have Silver's the Butter Sword. Blue Mail is plenty sufficient with 15 hearts. They have the powder for essentially infinite health. There's really nothing that they would even need to be looking for. Once they find the boots, there's no reason to open anything.
Yeah, at this point, boots are really a utility to finishing Desert, and if the key is on the torch in Ganon's tower.
Well, I gotta say, both the runners have made very good time in the seed. Their collection rates are probably going to be in the 170 range, I think, at the end of this. And it's going to most likely be around 2 hours, which is not bad at all for that many items.
Not at all. I mean, they're so close to go mode, and you know, to get a go mode within the next few minutes is decent, and they're really and truly going to be in good shape. You know, we'll see. I would say probably close to a sub 2.
Yeah, No Name is the only one with even a slight go mode advantage, being able to go mode Meyer, where Bakar, due to his routing, is not going to be able to go mode anything. But that's only a tiny advantage. Otherwise, they've both cleared essentially the entire game.
Bakar just missed that sword spin technique on Cold Stare, but he did throw on the cape just in time to take him down pretty quickly. So he will pick up his next crystal, and we'll see where he goes again. I have a feeling that he'll go to Meyer to wrap that up, but he may go to T-Rock. But a lot of people like to save. Well, then again, we'll see. If he gets Boots and Meyer, then that'll save T-Rock for the end, which a lot of people like. But if Boots are here, then that's not a luxury they are going to have.
So good call. Bakar is going back to Meyer like you predicted.
Well, No Name is going into Mimic Cave. I think he's hoping to find the Boots here. And then we'll continue on to completion of T-Rock, and he finds something red, but not the Boots he was hoping for.
Yeah, we're running out of spots for both of our players, but we know it's got to be at either the I don't know what No Name's key situation is, the roller room chest or laser bridge or the boss, or in Bakar's situation, Vitreous. 6 or 7 spots left. Alright, so it doesn't have a key, so this next one has to be a key. So we'll have to look for items on laser bridge or Trinix.
Ooh, that roller knocking back No Name, but he does get his key, and he will continue on in T-Rock, and he does have those items in Laser Bridge, as you were saying, to pick up, in addition to one additional key to get into the last piece of T-Rock to get toward Trinex.
Absolutely. 4 non-key items left. I don't know if he has the map or compass yet. So between 2 and 4 useful items remaining. But we will have the knowledge of what's on Vitreous before we have the knowledge of what's on Trinex, with Bakar just about there. And with Silvers and the Butter Sword, he's got either arrows or sword spins to choose from. Plenty of choices, both really fast. Let's see what he picks. Oh, my favorite. Going for the sword spins even with Silvers. I love that. Not enough people do this.
There's something oddly satisfying about just throwing on the cape and like wailing away at Vitreous, so I like this move.
There is, and last item is just a full heart container, and the boots are on the end of Laser Bridge. Wow, synced up.
Well, it's so 139. We have a go mode for no name. So Bakar is going to have to go up, and he doesn't have any other choice. He's going to go up to T Rock at this point to get his boots. But definitely slight advantage on no name's side at this point. But as we all know about Randomizer, it is not over until it is over.
Absolutely. That is the worst spot for them to be for no name, because I'm sorry, that is the best spot for them to be for no name because Bakar is going to have to clear the entire dungeon looking for them as well. But no name still has all of Myra to do, and Bakar has all of Turtle Rock to do. Neither of them will be able to, end their route up here at Turtle Rock. They're both going to have to go back and do desert and climb the mountain again. So normally that would be advantageous if you could save TR for last, but not applicable in this case. Given the big key location in Misery Mire, that's going to be a little bit faster than Turtle Rock, and it's closer to desert, so it's a slight advantage for no name, but less than a 2-minute difference at best.
A wondering I've always had about this game is, so you have to hit the 3 pegs to open up the portal to Dark World on top of T Rock. I mean, I don't know if that was that Nintendo's attempt at like a mini puzzle before opening the dungeon. If so, they kind of phoned that one in.
Well, I definitely think it was an attempt at a puzzle because you do have to hammer them in that particular sequence. I remember my first playthrough of this, after not playing for a couple of years, I got that wrong, and I had to leave the screen and come back and try again. And I did something wrong because I didn't leave the screen. Like maybe you have to go 2 screens away to reset it. Whatever you had to do, it didn't reset. And I ended up trying like every combination several times, and it didn't work.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I have to think about my single-digit age self, and perhaps at that point in time, or after stepping away for a while, I could see that you could get that wrong a couple times.
Well, it's pretty. It's not the fact that I got it wrong. It was the fact that leaving the screen reset the hammer pegs, but it didn't reset the win condition. So even hitting the right pegs still caused it to fail. It was really weird. But this game is full of bugs, so who knows?
So at this point, close to full clear as they are, I wonder if we will run across that last shield for these 2 runners, or again, we still have those mystery left side items on Swamp Palace. That could be one of them. Could be at the shield.
The shield could be anywhere at this point. Given the fact that they had the invincibility items, the shield's not logically required for the laser bridge. So it can be in Ganon's tower, left side swamp. I hope we don't find it. It causes more lag frames, and it really only helps you versus the red mimics. Now, I would have a completely different opinion if it worked as it should and would block Bemo's attacks.
I've always wondered why that is not the case. But, you know, as we said before, this game has a lot of quirks to it.
Oh. So, No Name finds the big key, but doesn't go for Vitreous. Interesting. Or he does go for I don't know where he's going. Okay, so he's going for Vitreous, just didn't know that he was one room away. So you can do left side or right side. There's portals on both sides. So that makes sense.
Well, looks like Bakar's going to go ahead and check Mimic Cave, and of course, in his mind, there is no reason not to at this point, because we're still looking for those boots. He is going to find them in the absolute last chest on Laser Bridge, and that's probably going to be very frustrating for him, as he gets bodied by these, like, I-beams.
No Name, right about to head into his Vitreous fight, and I am going to call Silvers for this one.
Yeah, I would think Silvers. We'll see a few menus before he steps in, but I would think Silvers for him as well. Although he may make us both a liar.
He's always a little bit lower on health, so I might want to just play it a bit safer. And he's got, I mean, they both had a lot of ammo, but I think Bakar had a bit more health. Alright, very nice. No Name completing Misery Mire just has to do the very quick Desert Palace, and Bakar only 2 rooms away from getting his own boots and being in go mode. I've never taken that route or seen anybody take that route on the platform. That is neat. That's a neat route. I like that.
You know, I was just thinking that. I said, I wonder if that route saves time. It would look pretty quick, so I'd have to see if someone timed that one out.
Whenever I see stuff like that, I'm fairly confident it's slower, because if it was faster, it would have been in the NMG route, like for the past 20 years. So I just assume that somebody would have timed it by now. But it's definitely something that you should learn in case you hit the wrong button. That you know how to do it without backtracking. So it's a good route. I like it. I also like it just because it's different and you don't see it. Try next boots and butter. Will he go for the 0 cycle? No, standard 1 cycle.
Yeah, and it looks like No Name went to the right side, picked up his big key. Interestingly, didn't mirror back to the entrance. I think that would have saved him a little bit of time, but that's all right. I mean, he's definitely has a little bit of an advantage right now. You just don't want to let those advantage moments slip away.
Yeah, that's the mirror. Sometimes you don't think about it. Maybe he was going to route in the big chest and then decided, no, I'll skip that too. Yeah, that definitely could have saved a few seconds.
So No Name has a lot of I was going. Go ahead.
I was just doing filler, saying either way he's making quick work of desert.
And I was going to say, I wonder what option he chooses for land molars. He has half magic, he has fire rod, he has silver arrows, he has butter sword. I mean, he's got a lot of option at his side. It looks like he might be going fire rod, but again, this could just be out for those torches.
I think fire rod makes sense. I mean, because you have it out for the torches already. Silvers, if you miss a silver, then you're almost guaranteed a 2-cycle. Fire rod, he's got 14 shots left. Just gives you a little bit more margin of error. He also only needs 2 butter sword swings, so we can just use those. Yeah, anything but bombs. We don't want to see him use bombs.
Yeah, bombs and Canis Samaria. That does not make a good time.
There we go. No Name picking up his final 7th crystal. We have a very very well lit board there. Our tracker tracker has been very thorough and is almost done for the night.
Yeah, just a very quick shout out to Raspberry Floof on this near 100% run. The only thing we didn't take care of is Aghanim 1, but we do have something fun coming up, T-Ro, and that is our Big Key guessing game. In Ganon's Tower, there are 22 possible locations for the Big Key. Though this is not a speed gaming channel, you do win our love and affection if you get it closest. So go ahead in that chat and put what number you think the Big Key for Ganon's Tower is going to be. What do you think it's going to be?
Well, I just want to stipulate that love and affection is only guaranteed by Prof. You can get my reluctant respect if you win. I like this game. Chat, chat gets to point out all the mistakes that we make. So this is their opportunity to prove their prescience. Do they have the wisdom to guess where it's going to be in advance? I'm going to go with the torch because they got the boots so late. I want to see them get more value out of it than just one spot. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go 14. I mean, 14 is always the number I go for. I've never once got it right, but I'm feeling today's the day. I'm feeling my day today.
So what is that normally? What, randomizer room?
Believe that is the randomizer room. If not, then it is Bob's chest. Of course, it depends on the route and what they do first.
Yeah, there's this game has always baffled me because there's no reason to guess a location in a randomized sequence of numbers. It's like I just picked the same thing.
Kudos to whoever guessed pie in the chat. I like that someone guessed pie.
I don't even know how you have to copy and paste that from somewhere. I don't know how you would even type that.
I don't know, but looks like No Name is going to go right side. This could be a decider here. If there's nothing on right side for No Name and Bakar goes left side, this could change the pace.
Yeah, No Name taking the fairly standard, currently the meta. You find a key, you go right side. I think like the fastest play you can make, optimally. But there's Ganon's Tower really comes down to a lot of personal preference. Players have routes that they just never deviate from. In the fall tournament, going full left side was kind of like the popular route at the time.
I do remember that, and unfortunately, that might also be the right route. It looks like it is the right route, and this time it 6 chests in and nothing for No Name. So that, if Bakar goes left side, this could tighten the race.
So number 7, the torch, just a 5-hour upgrade. So my guess is dead. It's got 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 coming up here in this awful Stelphos room. Red rupee for 8, another small key, and the big key at chest number 10.
So congratulations to anyone who guessed 10. I don't know if we're playing Price is Right rules.
No, nobody guessed 10. So congratulations to I Have No Name SDA.
Kudos to you.
And no name wins by actually finding the key first.
Bakar is going left side though, so this is going to save him time, and it's going to really tighten this race. It's really going to come down to some. It could come down to some really good execution, and those gauntlet rooms could be a test of show of a test for these two.
Absolutely. I'm saying no name wins the guessing game by proxy, not the race by getting it. It's absolutely very close, less than a minute at this point. Making that left side play definitely let him catch us some time. No name going for these. Oh, I was going to say, usually when you fall off there, you're going for the safety fairies, but not going for the safety fairies. So how are they on potions? One of them stocked up on a couple blues, but I don't remember who it was.
I think it was Bakar. He stocked up on blues right before I believe he went to Ice Palace, and I don't know um, that what No Name has. He does have 4 bottles, and of course, if he really wanted to, he can bonk the tree right before going into the Ganon fight for a fairy, because he did pick up that bug net. But other than that, I'm not sure if he has any safety potions.
So opting to use fire strats instead of arrow strats. The fire rod takes a little bit of time to kill the horse-head guys. Instant kills the skeletons, but with half magic, very efficient. And that is an amazing first landmass cycle. I love that strat.
Yeah, that was incredible. It just visually very appealing, and also really was helpful. But Bakar is also really doing a nice job in these gauntlet rooms with the fire rod.
So Bakar not picking up the anti-fairy there. So when you pick up the anti-fairy, the Lamos already begin their cycle in the previous room. So the time it takes you to pick up that fairy, they all come out at the same time, which is what makes that sword spin work out so spectacularly. The normal strat Bakar uses with arrows, you want them to come out separately. So nice that we saw both different strats there.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, missing some of those arrow shots put Bakar a little bit behind his where No Name had his lead before, but and almost getting the 1 cycle in the Wiz Robe room, very close to that. But again, this is going to come down to some execution at the end.
Yeah, they're only 2 rooms apart, and uh, Butter Sword Silver Gallons, not a difficult fight. Pretty easy to 1 cycle both of the first 2 phases. But a fault on Moldarm, on the other hand, that could be just a deciding factor. So I think that has more variance than Ganon does. No name, not taking a fall.
Also, not picking up that chest, so we will not know what is in that chest. Although I can't imagine with almost every single item collected, it is anything exciting. But Bakar's got to be really careful. He's got 1 heart left.
I think the most valuable thing that could be in that chest at this point would have been like Sankheart or something that would give him a little bit of health.
All right. Well, No Name is on what I like to call Trigonogonum Tree, the geometry boss. So we'll see how he does here.
I love that name. That is great. Trigonometry, is that what you said?
Trigonogonum Tree.
Okay, I love that.
Getting 2 1-1, so we need 3 more in order to take down Aghanim.
Yeah, Bakar not having any trouble with Moldorm, but getting bounced around by those mini Helmasaurns quite a bit. Cost him a good 5 seconds there.
This is going to be a close one. These runners are very close, and if Picard does exceptionally well here, then he is, just barely missing that 3.
Starting out with the double though, and nice positioning here for another double. That's almost a triple there, or double triple, however you want to say it. All
I
right.
think there's less than a minute between the 2 of these, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely less than a minute. So 6 swings into phase 2, and he got his 6 hits. So he's done phase 2 already at this point. Into phase 3 on Ganon. Okay, good. He has that red potion. I saw they had he had a blue in there as well.
All right. Well, as long as I'm not even going to say it because that's commentator's curse. But as long as nothing catastrophic happens, No Name is in good shape right now.
No, you fool! If you try to negate the commentator's worst, it increases its power.
Oh no! I forgot to read that in the manual.
There's a whole commentator's 101 guide. You should have read it. So Bakar using Cape Strats has those blue potions and the half magic. Both of them are able to one cycle each of the phases though, so not a time savings, unfortunately, with the gold sword. Missing the torch glitch. That's unfortunate. Alright, so 2 singles in phase 4. And this should be a double. There we go. Double for No Name. As long as he doesn't fall off the ledge.
Oh, how dare you!
There we go. GG's to IhavenonameSDA. 2 hours, 1 minute, 56 seconds, and oh my G, that is correct. So we'll wait for Picard to finish, and we'll get them both in for interviews if they want to.
Yeah, Picard not finishing far behind at all. As soon as he walks through this door, I will get you his official SRTV time, which is 2:02:44. So less than a minute between these 2 runners.
Wow, that is so close.
Picard showing his unhappiness by firing 1 single silver arrow back into the chamber.
So just give a second here for Picard to join the waiting room. We have No Name pending. I'll just bring them both in at the same time.
Well, that seed by No Name was a slouch. That definitely got the runners having to think and run around Hyrule in those dungeons. So I'm very impressed by just over a 2-hour finish with the 2 of them and a near full clear of the game. We are joined by No Name. GG, No Name. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was a race, I guess.
That indeed was a race, less than a minute.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was completely screwed from the moment I accidentally jumped in Lake Hylia. I was like, what do I do?
No, you made a lot of the right plays. I think the one big thing that we thought was going to put Bakar ahead was he made a gamble into Swamp Palace early and found those mitts. And it took you a little bit to get in there, but he made that gamble, and it was pretty impressive. It tightened the race quite a bit.
I mean, that's the 3rd race this tournament I've had mitts in Pendant Swamp. So it's like I kind of assumed, okay, I haven't found mitts yet, they're going to be there. But I knew from Skull Woods when I did that once I found the book that as soon as Bombos was required for one of the dungeons, I was like, cool, that puts me in good shape again.
just bringing Bakar in here as well. GG to both of you guys. Welcome, Bakar.
Yeah, GG, good race.
Sorry, No Name. You're talking about your early Zora routing decisions. You found the stun prize was red rupees very early on, and ended up farming for rupees and picking up that moon pearl.
Yep.
That was a really good decision there.
I mean, I always check the stun prize pretty much as soon as it's available, just because knowing that it's something that you need right now can always save you trouble. Like, I farmed up rupees from the stun prize for Zora, and then for chest game, and then for digging game, and it all worked out. I gotta ask though, Bakar, did you do left side swamp? Because I was going to, and then I had the flute and was like, okay, I've got a bunch more. I've got the mitts at the end. And it's like, okay, I have more places to go. And I completely forgot about left side swamp in that moment and realized as soon as I did save and quit. And basically at that point, had to bet on left side swamp not being needed.
So, Bakar, we're not able to hear any audio from you. Are you here?
Hello?
Hi.
Okay, there we are.
Oh, I've been talking for like 2 minutes and didn't know that I didn't that you couldn't hear me.
No, this is the first we've heard from you. GG, a very close race.
Yeah, GG to my opponent, and wow. Yeah, I heard you talk about the stun price. I didn't know that. I didn't check what it was, but so I had to go do re-enter the cave by desert.
I mean, with how many rupees were available without the stun prize, using the glove that you had. Wait, there was a glove available at that point, right? I think there was.
Yes.
Yeah, there had to have been, because I had Dark World access as soon as I had Pearl. Like, it would have been better to Houlihan off of the Grave drop than to just do Desert Cave, I'm pretty sure. Either way, like, Stun Prize was probably a little better than that, but not by much. And honestly, the only reason I went for Stun Prize stuff was because I jumped in Lake Hylia by accident. Completely forgot that there was a dock over to Ice Rod Cave, so I hadn't checked Ice Rod Cave yet. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna walk up to Sahasrara, I guess.
Yeah,
And farmed a bunch of rupees doing that. Decided not to go into Eastern, betting that I was probably screwed if a bonus Eastern was required. So it's like, let's bet on not doing that.
Yeah, when you watch the VOD, it'll be like, oh, he's going to Ice Ride Cave. Oh no, he's gonna Chacomba. Oh no, he's going to Eastern. Okay.
No, that was a mistake, and then I was
Yeah.
confused about what to do, and I got it back after a couple minutes, and it ended up working out due to Moon Pearl.
Well, I mean, this seed definitely made you dip into a lot of places. Chat pointing out, and I didn't really realize this, but two of the pendants were required. Obviously, Argus had the mitts, but Mothula also had the big key, which led to Bombos. So both of those were absolutely required, despite Pedestal not being.
Yeah, error capacity upgrade, who cares? Especially with those early silvers. But yeah, Bakar, did you go to left side swamp? Because I feel like that, if so, that's more than the difference.
No, I didn't go left side.
Okay.
But I did pretty much everything else there was to do. I mean, I remember.
I never did shovel spot, but I think that's the only thing I didn't do.
Oh, did I check shovel spot? I don't remember.
I mean, I grabbed the shovel off of the Dark Death Mountain, but then I just ended up, as soon as I had, no, I already had the mitts at that point, so I'm like, okay, let's clear out the big clusters of other overworld, and then Ice Palace. And that's Tamaria placement. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, there weren't many places.
And at that point, it was like, okay, now the dungeons are a higher priority than checking that one spot.
I have to say, Bakar, I know you're a gambler, and you made that gamble into Swamp Palace. We were all wondering, why not clear out the 2 crystals that you had available to you, but it really paid off for you, and it was pretty incredible to see you get that mitten there.
I mean, I considered doing the exact same thing. I just figured that 2 crystals were probably better, and if not, I can go to Swamp in a bit anyway. It just other stuff kept opening up, so I just kept getting put off. But it's like, I had basically resigned myself to needing to clear Swamp Palace.
I mean, we don't have the item counts on the screen yet, but I think you guys are probably within 1 or 2 items of each other.
That's a lot of 9s on my stats. 9 for the big key, 9 for the bonks, 9 for the save and quits.
So one of the questions I like to ask the runners at the conclusion of a race is, and obviously you had to make a lot of decision points here. You had a lot of decision points. Is there something you would have done differently had playing this seat again?
I would have cleared Skullwoods when I first went there because I considered it, but it was like, nah, I'll go clear Thieves Town.
Me as
That
well.
would have had me skip an extra path back into Skullwoods later, but it wouldn't have been too different. I think that's the main thing that I would have done differently in terms of route that I could actually do differently.
And I wish I didn't double dip Meyer, like gambling on the boots to be there versus the whole of Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I went Turtle Rock first, figuring that the potential benefit, like there's 6 items there, including Mimic Cave versus 2 for Meyer. So as much as I like the Meyer dip usually, I was like, okay, it's not worth having to potentially go back to that area, I think, over maybe ending at Upper Turtle Rock, like as my last crystal.
So, Bakar, it's interesting you mentioned that. When you went into Meyer, you were mostly looking for the boots then, and not the cane?
Yeah, the first time I went, I was looking for both items, I think, yeah, because I went straight to Ice Palace after, and found the red cane there, so I went back to Meyer again and cleared it before going up to the rock. So it was a bit. I didn't quite like my routing. I think it was a bit all over the place.
Yeah, I went at that point, like after the mids, I went ice full clear. Actually, no, I did some overworld first, then ice, then Meyer overworld, Turtle Rock, Meyer desert. Just trying to balance overall like worst case scenario route with okay, how can I check the most things as quickly as possible without delaying the last things too much.
Well, the final totals are in, and there is only a 2-item difference between you guys.
I'm betting I have more because I went out of my way to grab that net just because.
Oh, you grabbed the bug net?
Yeah, I grabbed the net. I got every single Y item.
Yeah, Bakar, you looked at the bug net and you just noped out of there.
Oh yeah, the other thing I wish I did differently, after going right side pod and knowing that the other 3 chests in the front were keys, I thought I had enough to just do the back and then just go back in and just go straight in the middle. What I should have done was, after I knew those 3 were keys, mirror after the 3rd chest and then just grab the one in the basement and mirror again. Then go across the bridge and do the back. Like, I thought I had enough keys without needing those 3. I was wrong. I'm used to having the boots if I go that route, so I can just bonk and get the bridge chest. And I'm just like, cool, everything works.
Yeah, not having boots early sucks.
Well, 2-hour time for essentially a full clear without boots is a very respectable time. No Name, proceeding to 3-2, so still on the bubble. There's a lot of people in the 3-2 bracket. How comfortable do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to make it into brackets. I'm trying to have an overall winning record. So I'm feeling pretty good about my chances of that. Like my last 4 matches, I felt going in that I was going to lose, and I won 2 of them. So, who knows? I might crack brackets, but I'm not too hopeful about that.
Well,
I hope you make it.
Absolutely. The Swiss format is definitely matching people up that are evenly paired, because you guys were you both had excellent execution. I encourage all the viewers to get the wrong command to give the runners a follow at their respective links. IhavenonameSDA and bakarbollar. Really glad you guys gave us the opportunity to watch this race.
No, thank you guys. You're the best.
Indeed.
Doing the commentary and the tracking and everything in this game. So big thank you.
And of course, Bakar, you're not quite out of the woods in terms of brackets yet. If we do have drops and you proceed to win your next matches, there is still a chance that you can make it into the bracket stage. So don't get too rusty yet.
Really?
Yeah, some of the 4-3s are going to make it in due to drops. That's going to be based on strength of opponent schedule. And then if that's somehow a tie, strength of your opponent's opponents.
Oh well, but I'm just gonna have fun with this. So, but if I could make it to the brackets, that would be awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the good race.
Any last questions, Prof, or I can go wrap it up?
No, I think I just want to say GG to the both of you, and good luck moving forward. And No Name, you are now in the same bracket stage I am, so perhaps we will be matched up next week. I sure hope not, because I will not win.
I'm in that group as well, so we'll all have a little reunion.
That would be interesting.
All right, well, wrapping things up then, thanks again to both our runners and GGs. The final race of the day starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, a little less than 2 hours. There's another race going on, Speed Gaming 2 and 4 at the moment. Of course, there are 6 Speed Gaming channels and 4 ALTTP Randomizer channels. Most of the new group phase will start tomorrow and will run for 2 weeks. So the high intensity scheduling will we won't have to wait too long after tonight before there's more rando action. As always, I encourage everyone to give us a try for yourself. It's incredibly fun to play. Thank you to our restreamer Iceman F1 for getting us through all the challenges. Our tracker Raspberry Floof, of course. Commentators would be absolutely ruined without the excellent skills of our tracker. And my co-commentator, the Prof Gamer. It's been a pleasure to join you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you to the audience for joining us here today, and really just having a good time with us. And again, thank you to the back end, Raspberry Floof and Iceman. You guys pulled like triple duty today, so certainly follow our runners if you want to follow our tracker, follow our restreamer, and certainly go check out those other races today. It's been a pleasure to commentate today, and we hope you have a great night.
Bye.